So an active investment strategy is one where the manager will take positions in securities in order to try and beat the market return, and for doing so they will charge a higher investment management fee. A passive investment strategy, on the other hand, is one where the manager is trying to seek to match the market return, but usually for a very low investment fee. So where clients have a very strong focus on investment costs and are looking to keep their costs low, that is obviously a good reason to use a passive strategy. Also, if they have limited tolerance for underperformance of the market, which is what can occur when using an active strategy, again a passive strategy is relevant. Also, in markets where it's very difficult for investment managers to outperform, or the investment managers have not demonstrated a record of outperformance over time, as an appropriate use for a passive investment management strategy. This is most likely to occur in markets where there's a wide available list of opportunities. This will allow active investment managers to form more insightful views and often have access to better information that will lead to outperformance. It is also important for the active manager to be able to implement ideas fully and cost effectively, so that the value of the idea is not lost. Finally, investors need to have an appropriate time horizon. Active managers will go through periods where they do out and underperform the market, so you do need to be patient when you're using an active manager. So it's important to emphasise with this question that investors look at this on a case-by-case basis in each market. The first thing to do is to look at the market potential. Is there a wide breadth of opportunities, for example, for active managers to choose from? The second component is to look at the evidence in terms of whether active managers have demonstrated a record of adding value over an extended period of time. If there's good potential for outperformance and active managers have added value as a group after the fees they charge over time, then that is an area where you should be using active management. In short, plenty. Investors need strong internal expertise to be able to select active investment managers successfully. Alternatively, they need to be able to access good external advisors that can provide this information for them. Secondly, it's important that they implement the decisions very quickly, so their own governance structure needs to be aligned with making quick and efficient decisions. Thirdly, they need to have an appropriate time horizon. They need to recognise that active managers do go through cycles in performance and that they're patient with the active managers that they utilise. And finally, it's very important for investors to focus on the performance of their overall portfolio rather than being overly concerned about the performance of an individual investment manager. Individual managers do go through performance cycles, but when you place them together into an overall portfolio, you do get a more robust result. So it's important not to lose sight of the performance of this overall portfolio and get focused on short-term decisions with the individual underlying managers. Yes, there are. For example, a lot of investors are becoming very cost conscious, so there certainly is an increasing trend towards passive management strategies in light of an environment where investors are seeking strong efficiencies. Secondly, the type of approach to building sector portfolios is changing. Investors are often now using a passive core to a sector and then using various high conviction active managers to supplement that passive exposure. This is opposed to using active managers that might have had more of an index hugging type approach historically. Thirdly, there is also a trend to a type of strategy that we call smart beta. This effectively is trying to produce some of the results that active managers would deliver, but at much lower fees than a typical active manager would charge. So all active managers need to have an appropriate index that you compare them to judge their performance. However, importantly, rather than just using a plain market index, you do need to give some thought to determine whether that index is an appropriate measure for that particular active manager. If the active manager has a particular style or other approach, you may need to choose a more customised or tailored index to ensure you're making a fair comparison. And finally, it is important for investors to have an appropriate time horizon when they're judging the performance of an active manager. Typically, you need to have a 3 to 5 year time horizon, given the cycles in performance that active managers tend to go through. We believe that investors should work through a systematic and structured process in order to answer that question. They need to look at the opportunity in each particular sector. They need to look at the delivery of active managers' results to see whether it is possible to add value. They then need to look at their own governance structure and make an honest assessment as to whether an active or passive management approach is suitable for them. In practice, for most investors, a combination of active and passive is usually the best answer. So in essence, there is no one right answer to the question of active versus passive management. It varies depending on sector and it varies depending on client. The most important thing is that clients work through a systematic process to determine what combination of active and passive management is most appropriate for them.